further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street, people who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, health care, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants, we move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country. And anyone who goes shopping in a mall knows how difficult it is today to find the product made in America. But that is the philosophy. And I have to say, in that regard, the champion, and he is honest on this one. Senator McCain has been criticized recently for not being the most honest candidate we have seen in terms of his ads and so forth. He has been honest on this one. He is the lead advocate of unfettered free trade. And that's an also important part of this right-wing ideology, that it is good for America that corporations can go to China and bring products back into this country.
Friends, the hypocrisy is very, very, very real.
And yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
Friends, Donald Trump, our great president, has been consistent for decades. Hello, friend, and welcome to The Conservative Poet. My name is Amania. Here on the channel, we do political reactions, we do a little commentary, some parody to drive home the crazies that we're seeing in the society. If that is something that is interesting to you, then please stick around. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Today, friends, we are diving into the latest economic battle playing out on the political stage. President Trump's tariffs policies, yes. But we're not only exposing a major case of political hypocrisy from them on the left, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We're going to get deep down into it to show the hypocrisy. Year of our Lord 2025, President Donald J. Trump is making it clear to the world that America will no longer be taken for granted. We will not be taken advantage of when it comes to foreign policy. His new tariff plans levels the playing field, ensuring that if countries like China, Canada, Mexico, and the rest impose high tariffs on goods, then, well, we're going to hit them right back. We're going to hit them right where it hurts. It's common sense. It's fair. And it's about putting what? Putting America first. So here's a kicker. Back in 1996, then Representative Nancy Pelosi stood on the House floor and proposed nearly the exact same reciprocal tariff that President Trump is proposing right now. That's right. Nancy Pelosi did this. She proposed this on the floor. But today, she has a problem with what Donald Trump is trying to do for America. Talk about hypocrisy. Thank you, everyone who has been supporting The Conservative Poet. I owe you a debt of gratitude. And if you haven't supported the channel, you can do so now. We have new merch that you can purchase, candles, mugs, all kinds of great merch. Please visit theorlandopatriot.com and get yourself 30% off. Thank you so much.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president in his statement requesting this special waiver said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export. That's as simply as I can say it briefly. But the fact is, this isn't about products made in America. The Chinese want American products that are made in China. And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections of the Boeing 737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas. Now they are made in Shen province, where workers make $50 a month. And the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place. General Motors, Ford, they're all fighting to get in to build factories there so they can make parts there. They want MFN so they can get those parts back into the United States. So we are exporting not low-tech jobs and textile jobs. We're exporting our technology. Now, if you take a country the size of China with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world. And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today and our constituents is that on this day, your member of Congress could have drawn the line to say to the President of the United States, Do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute that with 10 million jobs at least, and $35 billion and be over $40 billion this year in a trade surplus, all those billions of dollars in surplus, that the Chinese are going to walk away? Where are they going to take 35 to 40% of their exports? Who's going to buy them? This is what sustains the regime. The funding and the jobs. They can't have those people out of work. They have to be at work exporting to the United States.
So that was the Madame herself, Nancy Pelosi, doing an excellent job of explaining things, right? Yeah, she did an amazing job. She laid it out beautifully. She laid out the numbers. She laid out her thoughts. She laid out what she believed in and what she didn't believe in. Man, and she even looked like she was sober. I'm just saying, she looked like she was on point. But fast forward to now, what has changed, Nancy Pelosi? What has changed? America, you believe that America should not allow other nations to impose tariffs on our goods without consequences. You were all for it. You showed the numbers, how much they were gaining, how much jobs they had over us. We had 170,000 jobs. They were doing 10 million. You laid it out lovely. You understood that one-sided trade deals hurt America and American workers and the industry. You understood that. So what happened? Fast forward now, 2025. Now you're doing Olympics to deter us from this. Now you want to backslip and say you don't believe in these teas, that tariffs are bad for the country. So you're opposing it because Donald Trump is the one putting it out here. Essentially, one could argue that Donald Trump tapped into your plan. This video that you have here, that video that we just looked at, one could essentially say Donald Trump took Nancy Pelosi's plan and has put it into action because you laid it out beautifully, Nancy, on the House floor. And now you change your mind. You change your mind. Why, Nancy Pelosi? Why have you changed your mind? So, what changed? Did the economic fundamentals suddenly shift? No. Did China, Mexico, Canada, and the rest stop manipulating trade in their favor? Absolutely not. The only thing that changed is who's in the White House. Donald J. Trump. Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats are more committed to opposing President Trump than they are for standing up for the American worker. And that, my friends, is the reality. That is the absolute truth. They oppose anything good for we, the American people. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. What Nancy Pelosi called fair trade policy under Democrat administration, now she cries economic warfare under Donald Trump. It's not about what's right, it's about political theatrics, right? If a Democrat proposes it, then it's policy. If Trump proposes it, then it's dangerous. You just can't win with these people. Let's not forget, friends, this is the same party that's been willing to sell out America's manufacturing sector, allow China to walk all over us, and let illegals flood into the country, right? And yet, when President Trump fights back, they cry foul. They are not for we, the people. Not the American people, anyway. Might be for the illegals, but not the American people. So here's the big question, friends. Does Nancy Pelosi and her fellow Democrats truly care about the American people and fair trade and American jobs? Or do they only care about opposing Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump? The answer is crystal clear, that they do not care about we, the people. I would love to hear your thoughts on this question. What is your answer? What do you think about the hypocrisy of Nancy Pelosi and what she's saying now as opposed to what she said back in 1996? Talk to me in the comments. Let me know your thoughts there. Really appreciate that. So, friends, in closing, this is why elections matter. This is why leadership, strong leadership like Donald J. Trump matters. And this is why we must continue to expose the hypocrisy of these career politicians like Nancy Pelosi, like Chuck Schumer, like the rest of them who put their party's interest above the interest of the American people. And I know recently Chuck Schumer made a move that really had his party turn against him because he did the right thing. But that doesn't excuse you, Chucky. You're still one of them. You're still one of them. Anyway, friends, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time and going down in memory lane with me back to the days of 1996 when Nancy Pelosi had some good common sense before she hit the bottle really hard, friends, before she became what she is today. She actually made a little bit of sense. So, anyway, like, share, comment. I will see you in the comment section so we can chat it up about what do you think about old Nancy Pelosi and her thoughts and what she had to say in that classic video on the House floor. God bless you and keep you, and I will see you in another video.